Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and noticing something impossible. The sky isn't cloudy, it isn't stormy, it isn't even dark because it's still night. The sun is simply gone. No sunrise, no golden light creeping over the horizon, just an endless black sky where the brightest object in our solar system used to be. The first question that comes to mind is obvious. Would humanity survive even a single week? Surprisingly, the answer isn't as simple as you might think. Your first instinct is probably that everyone would freeze almost immediately. After all, the sun is Earth's giant heater. Without it, our planet should become an ice cube overnight. But reality has a way of being both more comforting and far more terrifying. For the first few seconds, almost nothing changes. Light takes about 8 minutes to travel from the sun to Earth. That means if the sun somehow vanished instantly, a purely hypothetical scenario, you wouldn't know it right away. The sunlight would continue pouring across the planet, as if everything were perfectly normal. Birds would keep flying, cars would continue moving, children would play outside, somewhere, as someone would be watching a sunrise. That no longer had a source. For 8 strange minutes, the entire world would unknowingly be living in the past. Then, without warning, daylight would simply end. Not gradually like a sunset, but instantly. One moment, the world is illuminated. The next, every city, every forest, every mountain, every ocean is swallowed by darkness. The brightest daytime sky you've ever seen becomes darker than the deepest midnight. At first, people would assume something had gone terribly wrong with Earth's atmosphere. Social media would explode with videos. Emergency broadcasts would interrupt every television channel. Astronomers would already know the truth, and it would be almost impossible to believe. Yet, despite the panic, you could still walk outside without freezing. Earth's atmosphere behaves like an enormous thermal blanket. It stores an incredible amount of heat gathered over months of sunlight. That energy doesn't disappear the instant the sun does. During the first day, average global temperatures would drop only a few degrees, cold enough to notice, not yet cold enough to threaten civilization. Most people would stay indoors, waiting for an explanation that would never come. But the real danger wouldn't be the temperature, it would be uncertainty. Every hour without the sun would make it harder to believe this was temporary. Governments would scramble to reassure billions of people, while quietly preparing for a crisis unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. By the second day, satellites powered by solar panels would begin failing. Some would switch to backup batteries, but many communication systems would slowly disappear. Navigation networks would become less reliable. Weather forecasting would become nearly impossible, because weather itself would begin changing in ways never seen before. Solar power stations across the world would instantly become useless. Fortunately, they provide only part of Earth's electricity. Hydroelectric dams, nuclear reactors, natural gas, and wind farms would continue operating. Your lights could still turn on, but the world supplying that electricity would already be changing. Plants would face a much greater problem. Photosynthesis would stop almost immediately. Forests wouldn't die within days, but they would stop producing the oxygen and food that quietly support nearly every ecosystem on Earth. The oceans would hide. Another surprise. Sunlight penetrates only a relatively thin upper layer of water. Deep below the surface, countless creatures already live in permanent darkness. For them, almost nothing would change during the first week. Ironically, some of Earth's most remote ecosystems would become the least affected. On land, however, animals would begin behaving strangely. Birds that navigate using daylight would become disoriented. Insects would disappear from the sky. Nocturnal predators would suddenly find themselves living in a world where night never ends. Humans would adapt better than most species, at least initially. Artificial lighting would transform cities into islands of brightness. Surrounded by endless darkness, daily routines would continue because clocks would still measure time. But psychologically, the absence of sunrise would become almost unbearable. Think about the last time you experienced several cloudy days in a row. Many people already feel their mood changing when sunlight disappears briefly. Now, imagine realizing that the dawn might never return. The greatest challenge during the first week may not be physical survival, it may be maintaining hope. By the 5th day, average temperatures would continue falling, though Earth would still remain far warmer than the frozen worlds farther from the sun. The oceans, the atmosphere, and the land would keep releasing stored heat, slowing the cooling process like a gigantic rechargeable battery, gradually running out of energy. The night sky, however, would become more spectacular than anything humanity has ever witnessed. Without sunlight scattering through the atmosphere, even during what used to be daytime, the Milky Way would stretch brilliantly across the sky, 24 hours a day. Distant galaxies, normally hidden from human eyes, would become visible from surprisingly dark locations. For the first time in history, billions of people would spend every waking hour beneath the true face of the universe. The stars would no longer belong only to the night. They would become Earth's permanent ceiling, and that creates a strange contrast. While civilization struggles below, the cosmos above would appear more beautiful than ever. The disappearance of the sun would reveal just how astonishingly crowded the universe has always been. But beauty would not change one unavoidable fact. Earth itself depends on an extraordinary balance. Nearly every form of life, every weather pattern, every harvest, every breath, ultimately traces its existence back to one ordinary-looking star, sitting about 150 million kilometers away. Could humans survive 1 week without the sun? Most likely, yes. Civilization would be shaken, terrified, and permanently changed. But the vast majority of people would still be alive after 7 days. Could humanity survive 1 month or 1 year? That answer becomes dramatically darker. As temperatures continued falling, food production collapsed, ecosystems failed. Survival would depend almost entirely on artificial energy, engineering, and cooperation, on a scale never before attempted. Fortunately, this scenario remains firmly in the realm of imagination. The sun cannot simply vanish overnight. It contains enough fuel to continue shining for roughly another 5 billion years. Long after every city standing today has disappeared into history, our star will still be rising over Earth. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson hidden inside this impossible question. We rarely notice the sun because it has never given us a reason to. It rises every morning with such perfect reliability that we mistake its presence for permanence. But every sunrise is quietly performing the same miracle. It warms the oceans, powers the winds, feeds the forests, lights the sky, and fuels nearly every living thing on this planet. The next time sunlight touches your face, remember that you are feeling the energy of a star that has been keeping Earth alive every single second of your existence. And without it, even 1 week would remind humanity how fragile our world truly is.